Gary Parrish. Welcome back to CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please do that while you're here. Let's get into it. We now have a date for the non-league showdown between Arkansas and Houston set for the Prudential Center in Newark. The date is, mark your calendars, December 20th, 2025, same day as the CBS Sports Classic. So on 12/20, here's what you need to know. We're going to get Houston and Arkansas in New Jersey on CBS, and we will also get St. John's, Kentucky, and North Carolina, Ohio State. That's a doubleheader down in Atlanta. 5 of those schools are in the top 25 and 1 right now. Ohio State just on the outside, but St. John's is number 1. Houston is number 2. Kentucky is number 12. Arkansas is number 20. And North Carolina is number 25. So December 20th, going to be a huge day on America's Most Watched Network. It is the Network of Stars. Norlander, where does Houston, Arkansas rank on our list of non-league showdowns on tap?
I mean, it's a pretty good one. If you listen to the shoot-around, you knew this game was coming. But now, yes, well-timed for us. We haven't gone live with an episode in a minute. So if you're watching on YouTube, hello, hi, YouTube. Hey, YouTube. And it had been a minute since we'd actually hopped on live. So we're all too happy to do that. And we've got a cornucopia of news-related items that we're going to get to on this show. But as it would so happen, less than an hour before we went live, we announced it, Arkansas, Houston. This game was supposed to, and I don't have the details why, but just letting you know, because I think I mentioned it during maybe the Arkansas episode. I think this game was originally planned to be at Barclays, but that's no longer the case. It's going to be in Newark, New Jersey at Prudential Center as part of the 9/11 Never Forget Classic. So it's another really good game for both of these programs. Both these coaches have been ambitious in their scheduling, as you would expect. And yeah, that's a huge day on CBS. That day will be a huge day for sports in general. You've also got the college football playoff. Duke plays Texas Tech, I think, also on that day. There's just a ton happening on that day, 5 days before Christmas. College hoops will center around everything on CBS and Paramount Plus with the CBS Sports Classic, Twin Bill, and then Arkansas versus Houston. I'll get to, I've got a variety of, top 10-ish non-conference games that I'll get to in just a second. But this actually does give me a chance to toss the mic back to you, because you sat down with John Calipari last week when he went to Memphis, as Memphis and Arkansas announced that they were going to have an exhibition that was going to be held, obviously, in Memphis there. Just a quick recap from you on what you talked about with Cal. And I would guess, GP, this is probably the first time you sat with him in like a one-on-one formal interview session in a number of years.
Certainly, that is the longest I've sat down with him in a number of years. I've done some TV stuff, HQ stuff, where, I've held a microphone in his face and asked him some questions on camera, and obviously bumped into him here and there. He happened to be at a table near you and I believe, at Peach Jam one night at a restaurant. I went over, said hello. This had been in the works, and it was just really nice to have him back in downtown Memphis. He was the king of this city, once upon a time, more famous and a bigger deal than anybody, including, all things Memphis Grizzlies related. And he went from that to, public enemy number one kind of overnight when he decided to leave Memphis after 9 years for the University of Kentucky. And he's been back here a lot since then, coaching the NCAA tournament here at Kentucky, but has never been here in any sort of official capacity to announce a game against the University of Memphis. And a lot of the reasons why is because it's been a pretty awkward relationship between he and the city and he and the fan base, over the past 16 years or so. But I do think for a number of different reasons that has cooled. Time has a way of doing that. I think him no longer being at Kentucky is probably helpful. But he's going to bring the Razorbacks here, in October for an exhibition inside FedEx Forum, with all proceeds or proceeds benefiting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And just to have him back here, they do the main press conference, but then he walked up here to this studio and sat here with me for 35, 40 minutes when he had, 50 people waiting for him at lunch, down the street. I really appreciated him doing that. And it was just nice to catch up and reminisce a little bit. I mean, you have to, go back. There was a point in time where very young me was sitting in a practice facility with relatively young him. And that was like, I mean, it was, I can tell you, I was in practices and I was like the only person there, not a member of the uh, uh, program on some level. And so he and I have been around each other a lot. I would, I would assume this is true. No media member has ever spent as much one-on-one time with John Calipari as I have, but I haven't done it a lot lately. And so it was just nice to do that. And he was kind to do it. And I think it's going to be sweet, him coming back here and hopefully providing a moment, a night, because it's not just going to be him and the Razorbacks. They're bringing back every Memphis player who ever played for John Calipari has an invitation to come back that night. And so it should make for a nice scene where hopefully fans of that program, people in the city, can put aside the fact that, yes, he left you for Kentucky. If that bothered you so much, like put that aside for a night at least, or hopefully forever, and just be able to appreciate that the best years of Tiger basketball that this city has ever experienced, that man's responsible for them. He provided this place with incredible memories and accomplishments, and it hasn't been properly celebrated because of the way it ended. But I think now enough time has passed where we're going to get that next month. And he was able to talk about that. And he's real careful with his words as it relates to this, because I think he wants to see how it goes before he says too much. But you can tell it means something to him and it matters. And I suspect it made for a wonderful day last week, and I suspect it'll make for a wonderful night next month.
I do as well. We'd love to see a game that actually counts, but actually in absence of this, the more I thought about it, and I don't know if you thought about it like this as well, and we'll close the loop on this and get to Houston, Arkansas and all that stuff in just 1 second. But the fact that the game's results won't matter, I actually think helps. So you don't have him coming in and necessarily beating the Tigers in a game that counts in the standings, because I'm sure he'll make multiple trips back eventually, after his coaching career is done, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that you would actually do this for a really good cause, invite everyone possible that can come, essentially a weekish before the season starts, and then it's just an exhibition. So the final score doesn't really matter. I actually think that's a benefit to both sides. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, the night will be about the moment. It will be less about the basketball. It'll just be about the moment, whatever that moment looks like. And he and Penny have hinted that they may try to do something down the road, home and home. Memphis and Arkansas have a strong historical basketball rivalry. Nolan Richardson came to Memphis and recruit, like Todd Day is from Memphis. Some of those great Arkansas teams, like Nolan would come in here, and Golden Gate Mike as his assistant, they'd come across the Hernando de Soto Bridge and recruit Memphis and they would play and often. And it was Arkansas Memphis mattered once upon a time, and it would be nice to have that back. John's non-committal on it. Penny would do it in a second. Mm-hmm. John's more like, let's see where we're at, but and then we'll move on. I do give Penny a lot of credit for not only wanting this, but working to make it happen. Because I had this thought as I was walking around the building, last week when John was here. It's a lot of, it is the wealthiest and the most important people in the city, and they're all just clamoring to John. And they're just like, man, it ain't been the same since you left. And man, those were the best times. And it just hadn't been the same since you left. And the guy who's in charge of it right now is standing there having to experience all this. And he handled it perfectly and beautifully. And I give him a lot of credit. It did pop into my head at one point. What is it like to hear that? To hear all the people who love you and support you, but they're just very publicly stating over and over again, it ain't been the same since this other guy left, and now he's back, and you've got it's just sort of I picked up on it, but Penny was great about it. And he has put whatever it is you got to put aside to have this moment for one of your predecessors. Penny has done that. The athletic director, Dr. Ed Scott, has been great about it. It's a sweet thing that I don't want to say it's long overdue, because I don't know that you could have done this 3 years ago, 10 years ago, but it seems like it's about time. This is proper timing, and I again suspect it'll make for a nice night next month.
Yeah, and easier to do now that he's a station removed, obviously, from Kentucky. But that game against Houston, that's going to go down on December 20th. That'll wrap up their notable non-con play for Arkansas before SEC stuff gets going in the first couple of days of January. Arkansas will also be on CBS as a reminder against Duke on Thanksgiving night. That game will be in Chicago. So Calipari's been very intentional about what he's trying to schedule, and it's big time stuff there. In light of that, here are 10. Just throw them out there. A little appendage on the news hook off the top of the show. I went and looked at teams in your top 15, okay, of your preseason or offseason top 25 and 1, and these are true on-campus games, like the Arkansas-Houston game, the CBS Sports Classic. Those won't be on campus. You'll have stuff like UConn, Florida. That's an awesome game. It's the Jimmy V, but that's at the Garden. You'll have Texas Tech, Duke. That's at the Garden. These are 10, maybe the top 10, if not 10 of the 12 or 14 best notable non-con games, specifically of November and December. This is in chronological order. Kansas at North Carolina. So just a little primer, preseason primer. Kansas plays at North Carolina November 7th, first week of the season. November 8th, Alabama is at St. John's, technically at MSG, but that's St. John's home court for all intents and purposes. November 11th, Kentucky at Louisville. These are all, by the way, every single one of these games involve teams that will be preseason top 25 teams, in some cases preseason top 10, top 15 teams. Game number 4, November 11th, Texas Tech at Illinois. Game number 5, November 13th, Purdue at Alabama. Number 6, Arizona at UConn on November 19th. And then there's a 3-pack on December 2nd, UConn at Kansas, Carolina at Kentucky, Florida at Duke. That's midweek. I think that's a Wednesday night, December 2nd. And then that weekend, Iowa State plays at Purdue. Now, a lot of the teams I've mentioned here, the preseason top 10 teams, they've got other really good notable games. I didn't want to have too much repetition. A lot of them are on neutral courts, players era, all that kind of stuff. But if you want an indication of some of the best we've got, we're going to be overloaded. There's an embarrassment of riches when it comes to non-conference college hoop stuff. I've mentioned this multiple times now leading up to the season. I think that this year's non-conference slate in college basketball has a chance to be as strong and robust as we have seen in 10, 12 years, if not longer. And that's just a little taste of what we got waiting. Again, those are all on-campus games, which we love to see, in addition to the inevitable variety of stuff that's going to happen on neutral.
Not to get too far off subject, but do you have a theory for why? I think everybody looks at the non-league scheduling and goes, this is better than it used to be. This is perhaps better than it's ever been. Why? Why are coaches seemingly scheduling more aggressively?
I think there's a few things at play here. One, I think it does help that I'm not putting it at the top of the list, but I do think those of us in the media who have talked about this incessantly on podcasts, written about it, and really beaten this drum over the past 6, 7, 8 years has played a factor. I think that coaches pay attention to, particularly in college basketball, they pay attention to what's written and said about their sport and in the media more so than maybe a lot of other mainstream American sports. They're dialed into it. So I think that's a factor. I think the TV executives across the board that are in charge of scheduling with college basketball have gotten better about trying to play some of these games. And some of it's the will and want to actually do this, particularly when it comes to now some of those on-campus games I mentioned, they are TV appointed. Florida at Duke is the ACC SEC challenge. That's unavoidable. Kentucky, Louisville, we love seeing it. That's literally part of it's practically in the state constitution in Kentucky that those two schools have to play. But nevertheless, it's been a good confluence, and I think coaches have gotten slight across the board. Not everyone. There are definitely exceptions. Don't get me wrong, but they've gotten slightly less paranoid about scheduling relatively ambitiously in non-conference play, and it's been nice to see. It's not like we had a void of good matchups in any single season of college basketball. It's always been, I thought, solid, but last season, this season, I think in particular, we are seeing a major uptick in watchable games in November and December. That's only a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Obviously.
Yeah, I think it's all of that on some level. I don't know exactly why this is, but it does seem like an older generation of coaches were more hesitant to do this, and the generation of coaches that have replaced some of them as the faces of the sport are more willing to just go play true road games in November, to get on the road in December. And I think it is also easier, like if you're the coach at this school and you see this program all do it, it's like, well, if they're doing it, I guess I'll do it. Whereas the opposite could have been true 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, well, I'm just throwing out things, but like you're looking around, you're like, well, if Mike Krzyzewski is not going to take Duke on the road, then why would I take my program on the road? And then it trickles down from there. Well, if John Shiger is willing to take his program on the road, who am I to not want to take my program on the road? I think it can work both ways, and it's probably working in a positive way right now. Back to Arkansas, Houston, obviously an old Southwest Conference matchup. So like these programs do have history. Before Arkansas left the Southwest Conference for the SEC. That happened after the 1990-91 season. But in the final year, and I guess I knew this because I lived through it, but just looking at it was funny. In the final year of Arkansas in the Southwest Conference, the league was this: Arkansas, Texas, Houston, TCU, Rice, SMU, Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas A&M. It was Arkansas plus 8 Texas schools. And when Arkansas left, the league was just 8 Texas schools. Will we ever have a conference with nothing but schools in one state? We went from having a major conference with nothing but schools in one state.
We do right now. I think the Big West.
It might be there.
Nope. Big West is Hawaii. So Big West is closest to it, though. I think the Big West is California, nothing but California and Hawaii.
Once upon a time, we had a major conference with every member located in the same state, and now we have major conferences with members located literally from coast to coast.
I'm going to say, by the way, I'm self-trivia timing here. I'm going to say the SWC folded. Was that 92, 93? It's early 90s. I'm almost positive. Do you have the number on that, the date on that?
Oh, man, this sounds like something AI would be able to figure out in no time.
Gosh.
When did the Southwest Conference break up? I would say in May 1996.
No, it definitely no. Arkansas was in the SEC.
With AI overview.
You're
arguing with AI overview right now. I hope you're
gladly. By the way, gladly. I have turned. You can manually go in and turn that AI overview off when you Google, and I have gotten that thing the hell off of my computer. Yes.
Oh no, I like it. It's so everything I know I get straight from AI overview.
That's problematic.
AI overview could tell me my last name is Johnson, and I would just be like, "Hey, welcome back to the Ion College Basketball Podcast. I'm Gary Johnson, I guess." Just whatever it says, that's what I'm going with, man. I trust it. I trust it more than I trust most people.
Arkansas was out after the 91 season.
Well, I told you that already, but when did it actually die? Yeah. 96. That's what AI overview said.
I was more talking like Arkansas, but fair.
Well, I told you Arkansas left after the 1991 season. You were doing that thing where you weren't listening to what I say.
We have a lot more show to get to. It might be time for a word from our partners.
You want to get a I guess
incredible. Incredible timing, Nada. That was amazing.
I guess that's what you do when you. Not everybody can be a Southwest Conference historian. So I guess when you get stuck and you don't really know what you're doing anymore, you just send it send it to break. Just get out of it. I know that trick.
Like that's a trick you might be using this upcoming season. I just love the idea of Nada just throwing it to the break in the middle of talking. I think that improves the quality of the show.
No, that's the producer recognizing one of his hosts ain't equipped to have this Southwest Conference conversation like he thought he was.
Or so he's recognizing that one of the hosts said we've only got a certain amount of time here. He knows how much more is on the rundown. And you're going on a 3-minute tirade about the SWC. Next topic.
I miss it. Hey, we did a fantasy basketball draft of college players from this century. We did that last week. Did you see that? 42.
Did I see it? I won it.
How do you think you won it?
We'll get there in a second. Nada, we'll get to GP and I last. We're going to throw this in order of the way it was drafted. So it was a 6-man fantasy draft. It was Isaac, our college hoops team of scribes at CBS Sports. Isaac Trotter got the first pick. And then number 2 was Cameron Salerno. Number 3 was KB, Kyle Boone. 4 was David Cobb. I was 5. GP was 6. This was a random draw. Didn't love being that late in the draft, but so it goes. Nada, if you can, I think he has the graphics for each team here. So let's throw up Trotter's first because he had the number 1 overall pick. There it is. If you're watching on YouTube, here it is. If you're not watching, well, you should go watch on YouTube and hit that subscribe button while you're there. He had Anthony Davis number 1 overall. So he took Davis 1, and then he had to wait all the way until number 12, and then he had the back-to-back. So he took Brunson and Kemba Walker. He's
too little in the backcourt. He's too little.
He's got Cunningham. We'll get to that in a second. He's got Greg Oden in the starting 5. Then he's got Russ Smith and D Brown off the bench and Bill self-coaching. So we drafted 7 players and a head coach for each team. So that's Trotter's team. Let's take a look at Salerno's. And GP, if you want to talk through it here, tell the people who Salerno drafted. He went number 2, by the way. Overall, flag was 2 off the board.
You want me to run down his?
Do you want me to take the mic for every single team, or do you want to read the roster?
I don't know. I had heard somewhere that there is nothing more boring than listening to people talk about their fantasy teams.
This is not our fantasy team. This is Karen Salerno's fantasy team.
Oh yeah. That's what people say. They say, you know what is boring is when people talk about their fantasy teams. But what is not boring is when they talk about other people's fantasy teams. That's amazing. That's amazing. Correct. I think folks can see it. It's Lonzo Ball, Jimmer Fredette, Cooper Flagg, Blake Griffin, and Jaleel Okafor. With Evan Turner and Karl Anthony Towns coming off the bench, he gave his coaching title to I guess our former colleague Jay Wright.
Indeed, Jay Wright, yes, who is stepping away from full-time broadcasting duties to give his all
to Coach Cameron's team. What if Jay announced that last week? I am leaving. Breaking news on CBS Sports HQ. Jay Wright is leaving full-time responsibilities at CBS Sports to coach Cameron Salerno's fantasy team, led by Jaleel Okafor.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's amazing. Next team, Nada. Let's see Kyle Boone here. He had number 3. He takes Zion at number 3 overall, fills it out with Frank the Tank at the 5, Doug McDermott, Dougie McBuckets, playing the small forward, Jay Williams, who went way too late in this draft, and Trae Young. By the way, Kyle Boone going to take a Sooner from a Cowboy. A little surprising there. Obi Toppin and Chris Paul off his bench, and he sniped Rick Pitino before GP could get to him. I know that hurt you, GP.
It did hurt me. I can't wait till Chris Paul hears that he's playing behind Trae Young. I'm sure he's going to love that. Chris Paul is the one player I looked up at one point, and I already had 2 point guards, and I was like, I can't take another one. But I was like, how is he still on the board?
Okay, fair enough. We'll get to that.
I'm going to put Frank. I love Frank, but we're going to put him in ball screens all day long.
Okay. Well, again, next team. We've got David Cobb. He took KD, Kevin Durant, with this first pick, and then on the back end in the second round, he took JJ Redick. He's also got Jameer Nelson at the point, Tony Allen, power forward, Emeka Okafor at the 5, and then off the bench, Damian Lillard, Draymond Green. Like, this is where some of you guys misunderstood the assignment. He drafted Billy Donovan to coach his team. He did a solid job, but I don't know about that. Let's get to my team, Team 5. I'm in the 5 spot here. Here's where you guys missed up on the assignment. This is not a fantasy draft to play other teams. You're drafting a team for fantasy sports. You want to accrue the best statistical talent available. I am the only team, the only one, that at every single position drafted a national player of the year. We'll get to Paris's team in just a second. I took Edie, the only back-to-back player of the year of the past 40 years. Then I took Tyler Hansbrough, the statistically best player in the history of the ACC and the best 4-year player in college basketball this century. I have TJ Ford, who was one of the 5 best easily point guards in college basketball this century. I have Buddy Hield and Adam Morrison, 2 of the 4 or 5 best shooters, period, in the sport. Off the bench, David West, top 20 player in college basketball the past 25 years. I will not hear otherwise. Won a national player of the year. And then Denzel Valentine, who's the only player drafted who averaged at least 19, 7, and 7 in a season. And oh, by the way, I have Coach K coaching my team. This is the best team. Let's see GPs. Why don't you talk through yours? Why don't you talk through your team, GP?
Oh, the greatest shooter of all time? Let's start there.
He wasn't the greatest shooter of all time when he was in college. That doesn't matter.
Just because you didn't know it doesn't mean he was.
Okay.
Steph Curry was the greatest shooter of all time in college. You just didn't know. You weren't paying attention.
I disagree. At 20 years old, Steph Curry was not yet the greatest shooter. He was.
Yes, he was.
Continue.
Yes, he was. He was already the greatest shooter on the planet and of all time at the age of 20. Yes, he was. Dwayne Wade, I mean, what? Triple-double on his way to a Final Four appearance?
Solid player. I was stunned you took him with the number 7 overall pick.
Solid player. Dwayne Wade, solid player. That's where
solid
we're at.
Player. You heard it here first. Like, I would have taken, for these purposes, you should have taken Michael Beasley before Dwayne Wade. He was statistically a much better player.
It's Dwayne Wade, for crying out loud. All right. Carmelo Anthony.
Great pick.
Michael Beasley, Joakim Noah. Look at that starting lineup. In my starting lineup alone, I've got 3 Hall of Famers. I've got 2 national champions. I've got versatility on the defensive end on my bench and Victor Oladipo. If we want to come in and really change gears, I'm bringing John Wall.
Again, this isn't about changing gears. They're not playing together.
I'm changing gears. I'm changing gears.
Draft. You're trying to get the best stats possible. GP did not draft a single player that won a National Player of the Year award, and he's the only one that drafted a coach who hasn't won a national title.
Michael Beasley should have won a National Player of the Year award.
But he did not. So take it up with your 2008 voters.
I am ready right now to take it up with the 2008 voters. Bring them on.
Well, here's the thing. We had a reader to the site look up all the teams and all the stats. And he ran it through and he took their best seasons across the board. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't you know it? Nada. Throw it up. Throw it up.
That looks like nerd stuff to me.
Nerd stuff, yes. Yeah. Numbers and statistics. We're doing fantasy sports. It is nerd stuff. And if you are looking right now, you can see the 10 different categories: points, boards, assists, steals, blocks, 3-pointers, 3-point field goal percentage, overall field goal percentage, free throws, and turnovers. Folks, it's no shock. I had the best team. Parrish had the worst.
Take that to Michael Beasley and see what he does with that. Take all your little.
It was me. Then Boone and Trotter tied for second. I actually thought Boone had the second best team. That tracks. Then Salerno.
No.
Then Cobb.
No.
And then GP was last.
No, first off,
I don't know what to tell you. This is the best statistical season for every player on every team added up for traditional fantasy basketball categories, and you had the worst team. What do you want from me?
I'm sorry, I don't even understand what you're saying. I don't speak nerd.
Okay,
I don't have any idea what you're saying.
Don't make any excuses after the fact.
I don't speak nerd, so I don't even understand what you're saying right now. I don't speak nerd. I don't get what you're talking about.
The guy who brings up Ken Palm 6 times for every episode says, I don't speak nerd.
I don't speak nerd, not this kind of nerd language. Here's what I know. They put it to a vote on Twitter, currently known as X. Somebody put it to a vote somewhere.
It was on the website in the story.
I saw a vote somewhere. Okay.
Yes.
And
I think you drafted your team based on their NBA accomplishments. That's got nothing to do with what they did in college. What he's getting at is he got the most votes on the website.
That is what I'm getting at. So who are we going to trust here? The people or some nerd math?
I'm going to trust the data.
Are we going to trust the people or some nerd math?
We're going to trust actual math. Yeah. I'm going to trust the data.
I thought this was the United States.
Hold on. You're going to trust the average internet commenter? Is that what you're saying right now?
Yeah. Yes. For the first time in my life, I'm ready to trust.
You're going to trust the people that are going to populate your at mentions? You're one of them now?
For the first time in my life, I am ready to trust people who say things on the internet. And those people, they said my team was the best team. I thought this was the United States of America, where we let the people decide. I didn't know we just let nerds.
Well,
okay, okay. I thought this was the United States of America, where in theory the people are supposed to decide stuff.
I was wrong.
I
was wrong.
Remember, in the United States of America, do you remember what it used to be like? Do you remember? Okay. I thought this was that. And we let the people decide. And you're saying, no, we're just going to let nerd numbers decide everything these days. I don't know. Seems like a slippery slope to me.
Parrish did win he won the online. You were first. I was second. Trotter third. Boone last. He's got a good team. It was a really fun experiment. If you're curious, real quick, these are the 12 picks in order. Just the first 12. Anthony Davis, then Cooper Flagg, then Zion, then Kevin Durant, then Zach Edey, then Stephen Curry, then Carmelo Anthony, then Tyler Hansbrough, then JJ Redick, then Doug McDermott, then Jimmer Fredette, then Jalen Brunson. I will say this. Jay Williams went 15 and he had no business. Like if Hansbrough was gone for me at 8, I was taking Jay Williams. He had no business dropping to the 3rd round. He was by far the best player that didn't have any business lasting until round 3.
Do we have a best player who was snubbed? Have we identified
let's get into that real quick. So the best players that were undrafted, and this is in terms of accomplishment, statistical stuff overall, not how good they were in the NBA, not if they were a number 1 pick. I put that at the bottom of the story. This is alphabetical order. You tell me who the best player undrafted was, GP. Andrew Bogut, Janai Broom, Trey Burke, Nick Collison, Drew Gooden, Frank Mason, Luka Garza, Kevin Love, Shabazz Napier, Thomas Robinson, Brandon Roy, Jared Sullinger, and Oscar Tshiebwe. Who's the best player that did not get picked?
I almost took Brandon Roy at some point.
He was nasty.
Yes, I almost took Brandon Roy at some point. I know Frank Mason doesn't resonate.
If I had the space on my team, I was going to take him. He was
the National Player of the Year.
Yeah, correct. Valentine had a better overall statistical profile, which is why I took Valentine. Otherwise, I would have taken Mason.
And there was a moment, if I would have taken another big, Kevin Love was crazy good at UCLA.
Yes.
Kevin Love was awesome.
Kevin Love was very, very good. Statistically, I wonder if the answer is, I'm just riffing. I wonder if statistically the answer is Sullinger or Garza. It is kind of wild to me that Cooper Flagg went 2, and until the final 3 weeks of the season, it was a toss-up between him and Janai Broom, and Broom didn't even get drafted. That's kind of funky. Burke's getting some love in the chat. I don't think Burke was one of the 3 or 4 best players that wasn't drafted. He was a National Player of the Year. He was good. Don't get me wrong. But I would pick someone like Garza, Mason, Thomas Robinson's statistics were pretty good. Tshiebwe, he was a rebound monster. A lot of really, really good players. If you aren't familiar, kids, with Drew Gooden, go look him up. So Kansas did not have a player picked, but had 3 really good players that were just on the outside looking in, and I'm sure Kansas fans are all too thrilled about that. But it was a lot of fun. We'll link this in the YouTube description after the fact. We'll put it in the audio description as well, where you can tour through all the teams if you want to take a look. And then feel free to let us know. It was a ton of fun. I knew as it was going on, though, I was like, GP is drafting this based on like he's letting their NBA career. To a certain extent, you were letting their NBA careers influence how you were picking. This is about fantasy sports. You're trying to pick the best stats on the board possible. So
Nerd alert.
That's correct.
Nerd alert.
And
it's a nerd alert.
That's correct.
It's a nerd alert. Hey, take all nerd numbers. Do whatever you want to with them. Get your team in everybody in their prime. Get my team, everybody in their prime, and let's go play.
That's a different conversation. If you're talking about the best basketball players, obviously you would have the better team. That's not even a question. Wasn't the objective of the assignment. That's all.
I was just trying to have the most awesome team, and the people have spoken, and I thought this was America.
Well, again,
you lose.
Okay. Do we need one more break? I feel like we need one more break. It's been a minute, right? No, to just cut us off. Just whatever. It doesn't matter.
Just do it. Just do it.
If you're there,
you can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
It was Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame weekend.
What?
I guess we should start by saying congratulations to our friend and colleague Clark Kellogg. Kurt Gowdy Electronic Media Award. He was honored this weekend by the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Adrian Wojnarowski also honored. He got the Kurt Gowdy Insight Award. Michelle Smith got the Kurt Gowdy Print Media Award. Kurt Gowdy sure does get to give out a lot of awards, doesn't he? How you get your name on that many awards?
Good. Become a legendary media figure as Kurt Gowdy is, and forever will be.
That's what I wanted to be.
Well,
damn it! I probably got to get going.
Yeah,
it's probably time for. Damn it! I should have been a little more. I should have been a little more focused when I was younger.
In all sincerity, Clark absolutely deserves the honor. Everyone in the basketball world knows this. He's been with CBS more than three decades at this point. I remember the first time I talked to Clark, it would have been pre-CBS days, running College Hoops Journal, was incredibly gracious with his time on the phone. It might have even been, I think it was for collegehoopsjournal.com, where I just, recorded and published a Q&A or whatever. But he's just awesome. Best of the best, nicest guy. Like, I genuinely think he's probably the nicest guy in all of college basketball media. Just really, really awesome for him to get that acknowledgement on Friday night. And him, and then our bud Adrian Wojnarowski, obviously, who more than deserving. One of those where you see it happen, it's like, this hasn't happened already. So he was overdue. Obviously, Woj came on the podcast shortly after he announced his retirement from media in 2024. That was great to see. And then we had inductees as well. We had Carmelo Anthony, oh, by the way, went into the hall. Dwight Howard, Sue Bird, Maya Moore. And then I don't quite get why they inducted the 2008 USA basketball men's national team. It was the Redeem team. So the 2004 team didn't win gold, and then 2008 did. But I don't think there was ever... I guess in the moment, there might have been some stressing over whether the United States was going to lose its hammerlock on domination in the sport globally. But like, you had Boeheim and Krzyzewski and Chris Bosh and Jason, like people that had already made the Hall of Fame once are getting in again. This is like, this is almost like Ringo and Paul McCartney getting in on their own accord in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, right. we know why you made it to begin with. But yeah, the 2008 Redeem team also, I was also honored. It was just, I don't know. It was weird to me.
Yeah. Whatever. I won't get too caught up on it, but I understand your sentiment. With Clark, my favorite thing about Clark Kellogg, and I think you appreciate this about him as well. Of all the times we've sat around, we've talked, I've been on the desk with him, been in, panels with him, just has never once called me a non-player. Never called me a non-player, not even once. I appreciate that. Not everybody has teammates like that, So I appreciate it, I appreciate that. And obviously echo what you said in all seriousness about Clark, like the best. Like you will hear nightmare stories about people who work in our industry at various networks. I mean, I could tell you some if you want to hear them, but you will never hear. How about this? I've never heard anybody say anything other than Clark Kellogg is awesome. Awesome to work with, awesome to watch, awesome to be around, awesome to hang out with. If you got to share an Uber, he's awesome to do that with. Like, just everything. Just a top-notch human being who also happens to be awesome at what he does.
No doubt about it. And he's done it all. He's done play-by-play in studio. Super versatile, amazing teammate. It truly is an honor to be able to say we get to work for the same company as Clark Kellogg. He is awesome, and that was so deserving. The induction happened not other side of the state from me. In the moment I was like, damn, I'd love to be there, but dad duty called there, and nothing but the best to him. Let's keep it moving. We want to touch on a variety of different headlines here before we got to scoot out. Speaking of Hall of Famers, just a note, George Raveling died last week at 88 actually it's been a week. I think he died a week ago on September 1st. He was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame in 2015, played at Villanova, head coach at Washington State, Iowa, USC, won more than 330 games in his head coaching career. Actually also spent time as a commentator on college basketball for CBS Sports back in the day. He holds a very interesting place in the history of basketball, period. One of the people that Michael Jordan has trusted the most over the past, 4 decades of his life, became essentially a confidant for MJ because he was an assistant on that 1984 Olympic team, coaching alongside Bob Knight, and remained close with Jordan for the rest of his life, helped Jordan get his Nike deal. So he's got that element to it where, like, Jordan famously, like, he's Michael Jordan. Like, there's just not a lot of people that get in his circle. Raveling was one of those people. And then August 28th, 1963, a young George Raveling is essentially working like informal security for Martin Luther King Jr. and delivers the most famous speech of his life, and one of the, maybe the most famous speech, if not like one of the 2 most famous speeches in American life of the 20th century. And George Raveling held and owned the original copy of the I Have a Dream speech, which was just such a fascinating such a fascinating fact. He eventually donated it to his alma mater, Villanova, and now it's on display in Washington, D.C. So a huge figure in basketball culture. I didn't want to get out of this podcast without at least mentioning and acknowledging him, because he's not someone that was out there prominently, consistently. He had a presence on Twitter, often offering GP just general wisdom and everyday advice, but he is a massive figure in the history of basketball in this country. No
question, and obviously played a big role in sort of the shoe company aspect of all of this. By the time I got to the place where I was covering college baskall, he was sort of the shoe company guy, as opposed to all of the other things he did prior to that. I won't pretend to have spent much time around him, but in the times that I was around him, he was always great, and obviously a big figure. You could just sort of recognize it when he walked in the room. Millionaire basketball coaches would sort of line up to sort of pay their respects and just shake the hand of George Raveling. He was a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know when his services are, but I can guarantee you whenever they happen, some of the very biggest people in basketball and beyond will be sure to make sure they pay their respects and attend that. Kind of relatedly, I think Raveling and Sonny Vaccaro, I think they had a falling out, but Sonny Vaccaro famously oversaw the ABCD camp for decades. The last one was in 2006. Now it's going to be revived. It was reported last week. I actually reached out to Adidas. They confirmed it. So I think the last one was 06. That predates my time on the college basketball beat, GP, by a couple of years. So I don't know what to expect. Adidas is going to run it, and it's expected to be back up, I think, and going by 26. Just real quick from you, I think you attended a couple of these back in the day. I think people that follow, if you're under, say, 35 and you follow college basketball, you might occasionally hear like LeBron played at ABCD camp or whatever. So real quick, what we don't know what it's going to be, and if it's going to be largely the same or if it's a little different how the alterations are going to happen. But what was it, and how many times did you get to attend it?
I don't know how many times I was there. It couldn't have been many, but I was definitely there multiple times and was 100% there for one of the most famous things that ever happened at an ABCD camp, and that's the OJ Mayo Lance Stevenson showdown. When, for people who don't know, at least the ABCD camp that I attended, by the time we got to 2003, 4, 5, 6, it was in Teaneck, New Jersey. just across the river from Manhattan. So you basically New York City, but just across the river. And it was just they would take the best players that they could get there and match them against each other. It was not about, like, if you think of Peach Jam, EYBL,
right.
They build these teams, and these teams,
two companies, right?
This was just like, bring all the best players and let's just create matchups and see what kind of buzzy stuff we can get going. And I mean, it felt like you had college coaches in the crowd, media in the crowd, agents everywhere. Like every character you can think of under the basketball umbrella is like here and there. And whereas everything at the Nike events was so structured, and it was like, if you want to talk to this person, you must put in a request, and then they'll bring them to you at 1:15 in this side room, and you'll have them for 45 seconds. Like at ABCD, it was just like, hey, I'm going to go sit with Greg Oden for the next 30 minutes. Like, I can remember sitting in Teaneck, New Jersey in the bleachers just with Greg Oden. I'm just sitting there talking to Greg Oden. But they created this matchup of OJ Mayo and Lance Stevenson. OJ was the number 1 ranked high school player in the country at the time, and Lance was like 14 years old from, I think Brooklyn. He was from there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt like his entire neighborhood showed up at ABCD camp. And it was interesting watching. You can find this on YouTube. It almost looked like OJ didn't know what was going on. Like, they put him in this game with this 14-year-old kid, and he was just sort of going through the motions. And this kid was think of Lance Stevenson, okay? At 14, he was exact same Lance Stevenson. He was coming for him, and the crowd was going nuts. And it looked like at some point OJ like realized this is a moment, and I got to get going. And then gave it back to him a little bit. But I was there for that. I just remember there was a cheesecake factory right next to the play, and everybody would like you'd go to that. It's sort of like the Hooters in Augusta. Like, you just walk in that Hooters, everybody's there. Rest in peace, by the way. You heard it shut down.
Yeah, I heard it shut down. Yeah,
that's a tough blow.
That's tough scene for the summer recruiting circuit. Yeah,
that's a tough scene for the summer recruiting circuit. But you would walk in that Cheesecake Factory, and just everybody would be there. And I remember it finally. That's where I first got to know Sonny. As I'm thinking through it, literally my first assignment at CBS Sports, first thing I ever did. My official starting date was July 1st, 2006. And I think the first thing I did literally was go to Teaneck, New Jersey, go to ABCD camp. And I don't even think I was supposed to write. I was just supposed to go there and like introduce myself to people. And I just remember this was a moment for me. I think I've told this before. I parked the car. I'm Gary Parrish from CBS Sports. Like, you feel a certain way about yourself, and very proud. I didn't know I was supposed to do all this stuff. And I parked the car, and the John Feinstein parked right next to me, and I got to walk in with John Feinstein, and that was like another month, like, because he was a big deal. And then I'm inside, like, hi, I'm Gary Parrish, CBS Sports. It was just the whole thing. I remember it. I loved being there. I hated that it went away. It's where I got to form relationships with Sonny and Pam, and to be clear, we don't have all the details on this yet. It's coming back, according to Tracy McGrady, but in what form? Is it going to be during a live period? Will it be sanctioned by the NCAA? Can college coaches be there? Because if not, it won't be what it once was and won't really matter at all. But if we can get it to where it's a place to be, I just like the idea of it existing again, because a lot of people there was a lot of great memories that came out of that event. Yeah,
there will be a certain level. This predates me by about 2 years, so I never went to it. I've heard the stories plenty over the years. Yeah. The reemergence of this, and if they can tap into a lot of what it was, it existed for more than 20 years, and it had an educational component to as well. But if it can be NCAA certified, the NCAA had those academies that never took off. They went on hiatus this year. I've been told they're done. They just haven't officially announced that. If that dissolves, I almost wonder where you put this. Does it go in June? Does it go in the final weekend of July? And if so, does Nike try and move when Peach Jam is played? Because right now it's in the final live weekend. That stuff will all get sorted out in the coming months. But the fact that it's coming back, it's really, really promising. And yeah, hopefully if it could be something similar to what it was, would be really, really good probably for the overall grassroots scene in college basketball. Just a couple more headlines. GP, you got like 7-8 minutes before you got to bounce. Okay, Rick Barnes signed a lifetime contract. We don't have to go too long on this, but just a heads up, he's 71. This is going to be his 11th season at Tennessee. We did not do a Vol Summer Shootaround episode. He's coming off back-to-back Elite Eights. Averaged 27.3 wins the past 4 seasons with the Vols. GP. He's got 836 wins overall, 232 with Tennessee. this is the kind of news that doesn't surprise me. What does it signal? I don't think a ton overall. If you had me set the over under at 1.5 more seasons, Rick Barnes coaching Tennessee, like I think I'm 50-50 on taking the under versus the over there. I don't think he's there coaching by say 74. He's been a target of just general speculation the past 2-3 seasons. Like, is this going to be the season that Rick Barnes retires? He's obviously not set to do that this upcoming season. But just a quick thought from you on Tennessee, I guess making official a hire that frankly bailed them out in a major way. Again, we're not going to go along in this, but they had Donnie Tyndall there for 1 year. He got a 10-year show cause. 10 years later, Rick Barnes gets a lifetime contract, and Tennessee basketball could look vastly different if not for things breaking unintentionally their way a decade ago.
And they didn't get off to the best start. Like, they had 2 rough years, and then I think they break through and win the SEC title, but do it with, guys who were mostly unheralded coming out of high school. Like Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, like these were not 5-star recruits. And that recruiting class, though, like, or those players popped for him, and it's been consistently really good ever since then. I don't know that anybody, quote, deserves a lifetime contract, but if you're going to start handing them out, it's a 71-year-old Rick Barnes who's done all these things. Makes sense to me. I would love for him to get them to a Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see him get another one. He obviously went there with Texas, TJ Ford, but that school's never gone to a Final Four in men's basketball. Mm-hmm. And like, they could go down. We don't need to debate the merits of Bruce Pearl.
Best, yes. Yeah.
But like, here's what I was going to say. There's a scenario out there where Bruce Pearl could one day be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Rick Barnes could someday be in the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. Tennessee could have been a part of 2 Hall of Fame careers, but never gotten to a Final Four. So I would like for that program to do that. And man, Bruce got him close. Rick's had him close. Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to do, but he's been terrific there since he got it going. He's been great. And I was happy to see that announcement.
Yeah, he's got Jordan Gainey on staff there. He's lead assistant. Gainey's had some head coaching opportunities in recent cycles. He's still there. It feels like, well, Tennessee, whenever the time comes, whether it's this season, next season, the one after that, when Barnes decides to retire and Tennessee is going to do its diligence, it probably will. But I feel like Gainey might have the clubhouse lead there. Other coaching news: Dan Hurley's got a book coming out at the end of the month, and in advance of that, there was some leaking of stuff in the book. And he does reveal that earlier this year, I'll give you the direct quote here. Quote, "I thought about leaving, taking a gap year, resigning as the head coach of the UConn Huskies," end quote. There's another quote I'll get here in just a second. This obviously made a little bit of noise. It's because what you have here is Dan Hurley in back-to-back years for under very different circumstances, at least contemplating leaving coaching UConn. But you know what? I'll crib from PTI. GP Dan Hurley revealing he considered leaving coaching UConn. Big deal, little deal, no deal.
I don't want to say no deal. I don't. How about here's what I believe. I believe it's a real feeling that he had. I do not believe it was going to ever be executed on, but I do believe that's a real feeling that he had. I think that's who Dan is. I think he feels a lot, and I don't doubt for a second that he was feeling like, I might walk away from this. But do I think he was ever actually going to do it this offseason? No. But is it easy for me to understand, knowing what I know about him, that he got to a point where he felt that way? Yes. But it almost, to me, it rings similarly to, I tell you what, if so-and-so tomorrow at work, blah, 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 I'll just quit that job. I'll just walk, and it's like, well, okay, Uncle Billy, but you're not going to quit the job. I know you're frustrated and you feel like you are, but you're not really going to. Doesn't mean the sentiment's not a real feeling. I don't think he just put it in there to get attention. I think that's a real thing that he felt, but wasn't going to act on it. That's what I believe.
The haters are definitely thinking he put it in there for attention.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think he put it in there because that's what he felt. He feels a lot of things.
And knowing Dan Hurley, if he revealed, or those on the staff around him revealed, that there were like 4 instances remember UConn last season? Remember what Dan Hurley put himself of his own doing most of the time, put himself through last season? If you told me there was a half dozen times where he walked into his house and said to his wife, "I can't do this anymore. I'm going to quit tomorrow." Like, it would just be him living in the moment. It's just who he, like, almost right. a self-deprecating level. It's just who he is. When I talk with Dan on the road down at the Adidas tournament for like an hour this summer, and he had mentioned how he was feeling refreshed, but he had even made like offhanded references to like, you should have seen me in April, like, curled up on the floor, the whole, like, so this is not surprising. Real quick, I'll share this quote here because I do think it's illuminating. He said, quote, "I knew my mind and I knew my body, and I could feel that I was absolutely cooked, just burnt. I didn't even know how I was standing. I stared at the office walls, muttering, conducting a brutal review of our season. I didn't build a strong enough roster. I wasn't a good leader. I let everyone down in Maui. I lost control emotionally at various points. I came in here some days sad and defeated when I needed to be positive and inspiring. Then I went through the self-lacerating what ifs. What if we'd played a little better in Maui? What if we hadn't blown that game against Seton Hall? What if we'd been better seed than an 8 seed and hadn't needed to face the number 1 in the second round? Who knows?" End quote. He goes on to say it was unhealthy to be ruminating this way, all this stuff, and it's completely valid. There's also one bit of context to consider with all this stuff. His former agent has now been a TV executive at Fox for like a half decade now, and so they engaged in probably just like a casual, informal conversation. But this whole like, I considered briefly no longer coaching and maybe was going to get into TV commentary was also aided by the fact that someone who was obviously a confidant for him for many, many years as his agent and then no longer became his agent once he got into the TV world. Those things make sense as to why they would have happened. But it is an intriguing reveal. I would say it's a little deal because you do have this in back-to-back years, but everything attached to UConn last season, it would be completely reasonable for a human being like Dan Hurley, the way he's wired, everything that he went through, to kind of say, hold on, like, I just won back-to-back championships. I've got all this in front of me. Like, if I want to have the ability to step away and just take a break and not be just doing, like, living this grind and putting myself through it, like, why can't I do that? It's completely human of him to have that conversation with his family, with himself, a week or two removed from the season.
I think, I think all of those feelings are normal. I think with him, they're exaggerated, and then he shares them either in a book or like just in a random conversation. Like, I have a lot of feelings too. I just keep most of them to myself. Like he's happy to talk about them, which I appreciate. I like that. To me, that's one of the compelling aspects of his personality. I like the way he tells you who he is and shows you who he is. And so I don't doubt the sincerity of the feeling at all. I do not think he put it in a book to try to get attention. I think he's just writing a book about whatever he's writing a book about, and that's a real feeling that he had, and now it's in the book. And he'll probably feel that way again at some point. He has, and
he's joined by literally dozens of other coaches. He happens to be the coach that is operating as the face of the sport, won back-to-back championships. That's going to lead people asking you to write a book. He's willing to do it, and he's never not ready with a quote, which I always appreciate. But it's a little deal, and it does by admitting this. I think it just puts out there now. I think UConn's fan base is always going to be a little bit like, that's now always in the room. Just like, okay, how much longer? Like, are we going to have him another 10 years? Are we going to have him another year? Like, I just think that by admitting, again, two different circumstances, offered the Lakers job versus the flame out in Maui, and I wouldn't even say falling on your face, because UConn rallied enough and they gave Florida a hell of a game. Which also ended, though, with another infamous moment with Hurley, crapping on the refs and telling Baylor, like, which didn't see the game. It's like, I hope they don't F you like they F'd us, Baylor. Like, all of this stuff, it's only too natural that he would think this way. Before we get out of here real quick, just two more bullet points. One,
I got to get going.
Okay, you get going. The WCC is adding UC San Diego. They're gone. And then there's a college basketball video game that's coming out soon, and everyone hates it. We'll save that for another time. We can get going.
All right. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck and Larnell. Appreciate you guys watching and listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. More of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. Do it. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.